Job cuts. Microsoft may announce major job cuts soon. Reports suggest between 11,000 and 22,000 roles could be eliminated in the third week of January 2026. Now, this would be the company's largest layoff round yet and the fourth straight January with reductions. The main reason? Soaring costs from heavy AI investments. Microsoft spent over $80 billion last year on data centers, chips and AI tools, and is shifting spending from salaries to long-term tech assets. Analysts had earlier projected that Microsoft may need to eliminate at least 10,000 roles annually to offset higher depreciation expenses stemming from data center expansion. In 2023, Microsoft cut 10,000 jobs, or around 5% of its workforce. In January 2024, the company laid off around 1,900 employees in its gaming division, roughly 1% of staff. In 2025, job reductions continued. Slightly less than 1% of employees were let go in January in what were termed performance-related cuts, followed by a 3% reduction in May and another 4% in July. So the point is, many job cuts were seen through the course of these 2 years. And it's not just Microsoft, Amazon, TCS, and Salesforce too have laid off a significant portion of their employees due to AI. Now, what does this mean for India? How do we upskill and protect our jobs? What does the future of the job market look like where companies are heavily investing on AI? To help us figure out these answers, we have Neeti Sharma, CEO, Team Leads Digital, and Ravi Kaklasarya, co-founder and CEO at Edforce. Thank you so much, Neeti and Ravi, for joining us in this conversation. I'll start with Neeti. Given Microsoft's reported shift from payroll to heavy AI capex, how likely do you see Indian development centers, GCCs, or offshore teams being affected by the rumored January 2026 layoffs? And number one, is this more about optimizing global structures, or could it accelerate offshore or nearshoring changes?
So, Malika, I think the answer is in between everything that you've kind of put together, right? I think the layoffs are primarily happening in places which are not long-term in nature for any organization. Given the AI investments, data center investments, all these companies are making, the skill set requirement for the future is very different than what it had been previously. And whoever has not been able to either upskill themselves, is not mobile enough to move to newer geographies, newer projects, newer roles, and or are just not fitting into the new org structure, which is for the future, they are the ones that are getting laid off. Of course, the biggest reason is that there's a skill mismatch, and that's primarily because with the whole AI adoption, generative AI, agentic AI requirements that are coming in, the skills needed are very different. So far, we hadn't seen such a big impact in India, but I think in the future, we will see such impacts because people who are not able to upskill themselves and be relevant to the future world of work, their jobs are going to be questioned, and their productivity is going to get questioned, and thereby layoffs will happen. How do we offset it? I think we need to make a lot of investments in skilling ourselves, be ahead of the curve, not just in current the way AI is getting deployed, but even for the future. So I think a lot of innovation, a lot of R&D, a lot of investments need to be made to be relevant to the global environment, so that our IDCs, our GCCs, and our services, companies kind of continue to stay relevant.
Okay, so the question about relevance, you actually gave me a very good segue point to ask Ravi this question. Ravi, when I was noting down some points to discuss tonight, one question that really lingered in my mind is often, we are told that we need to upskill in order to match the demand of AI, and that's why maybe job cuts are happening, as highlighted by Neeti as well. She said there's a mismatch in the skill, and that's the core reason behind why we're seeing these layoffs in the past couple of years. What kind of an upskill? And do you think, because it matters to our viewers, especially those who reside in India, does the Indian education system currently cater to the upskilling, to the kind of academics that's needed to match these AI skills? Because I don't see it happening now at school levels. When do you think that would happen, and by when can we actually come to that point where Indian education is empowered enough to support this kind of demand in the market?
So, echoing what Niti just said, uh, I think there definitely is a gap between what is available right now in the market in terms of upskilling and reskilling and what industry really needs. The gap is not that there is not enough scale or not that there is not enough talent or learners, but the gap is ensuring that the learning or the skilling is aligned with the industry. Now, you specifically pointed about the education that is available, whether it's in universities or in schools. Definitely, we being in the skilling industry, we are seeing there is a obsolescence that's happening in terms of the skills that is available right now and what actually the industry needs. And before it becomes a news or we see those numbers in the HR or recruitment, which might happen 6 months or 12 months down the line, we are seeing those patterns uh, in terms of there is a threat. It's not a crisis as yet, but there is a threat. What will happen? And the kind of education that is available in the colleges or universities, definitely it needs to be revamped, aligned with what industry is looking for. There are a lot of various roles that are evolving in the AI itself. People talk about, jobs getting slashed and, jobs being taken by AI. I would personally say that is a very unfounded fear. The jobs are not being taken away. It's the tasks that are being taken away and new roles are being defined.
Okay.
So the number one, yeah, sorry.
No, no, I get your point. The thing is, I wanted to interfere and break down what you're saying in different points. I'll get a Niti also in this conversation. Niti, Microsoft's massive AI investments appear to involve reallocating budgets from people costs to capital expenditures like data centers and tools. In the Indian IT context, where many roles support global clients, do you see this trend pushing similar reallocation across Indian IT services firms? And what does it mean for overall headcount sustainability in the near term at least?
Yeah. So I think in the near term, Malika, we will see a dip in the overall headcount growth. But as you also hear other services companies talk about, that the growth is not going to be just headcount in the future, it's also going to be how revenues and profits and productivity of employees is going to grow. So I guess the way we are now looking at growth is purely headcount driven. In the future, the growth parameters and matrix will also start getting diversified. To what Ravi was saying, that how is it going to impact us as a country, and you asked this question, Malika, that what is it that we do as a country to safeguard ourselves. There are lots of new jobs getting created that are, by the way, moving to India, whether it's AI developers, whether it is prompt engineers, whether it are data work, data engineering, analytics, data security, data annotation. So there are a lot of new jobs that are getting created, and those are moving to India. So if we are prepared enough, I think we have a lot of opportunity to continue growing the way we have done in the past. Of course, in the short run, there are these layoffs happening. The number of new people getting into the workforce is not going to be as high as what it used to be in the past few years. But I guess in the long run, this is definitely going to be beneficial for us. But we have to capitalize and we have to take charge of what's going to be in the future.
Okay, I take your point very well. But something that does not answer my question is, and I'm thinking from that perspective, where say, from a first person perspective, I'm an employee working in an IT services company, and I'm suddenly told that whatever my KRAs are, they don't really match the requirements of the job. Now, where do I go? Do I leave the company, resign, spend about 6-7 months or 1 year or 2 year into a course that helps me upskill into some AI related skilling, or do I search for a job maybe for less pay? Because that's a reality of many people who are already embedded and working in this domain. We need to understand that, of course, there are job openings that are opening. There are fresh opportunities that are available in the market. Of course, as Ravi highlighted, that we have fresh courses that are coming also. We're taking baby steps. But in the process of it, it's the men it's the labor who's already in the workforce that perhaps is the most vulnerable at this given point in time. And Ravi, this is where I'm actually losing time in this conversation. But I would like to get your comment on one last question. With NASSCOM estimating India needs 1 million AI professionals by 2026, but the current skilling lagging, does India have the infrastructure? And how long do you think we would take to build that?
Right. So I think infrastructure is definitely not an issue. The issue is the velocity at which we are able to upskill our workforce and how well that upskilling curriculum or the programs are aligned with what industry is asking for. Scale in India is, I don't think it has ever been an issue. I think even if we look 2 decades back or in the last decade or even currently, scale or the numbers are never a problem for India. In fact, those are the strengths of India. That is where the global IT industry looks at India for those numbers. One of the major gap that we see all the time is how fast we are able to take the feedback from the industry and inculcate it back in the various upskilling programs to ensure that upskilling programs are aligned with what industry is looking for. And I think that is where, while we are doing a lot of intervention at the private level, an intervention at the government level, at the policy level will help that we are able to accelerate the upskilling programs and reduce the gap between what is available in the upskilling and what the industry is asking for. I think that one policy push is really going to help in
All right.
ensuring that people are aligned.
Understood. So I take two key takeaways. Thank you so much, Neeti and Ravi, for giving us your perspectives from the point of employment as well as our education system. And as you highlighted, it's not the scale that is an issue, but perhaps the velocity of the velocity at which things are running at this given point in time. Thank you so much for joining us.